Love is the first and most essential bond, but it's also the invisible thread, woven with time, attention and tenderness, through consistent nurturing relationships.
A glamorous royal banquet at Windsor Castle allegedly descended into absolute chaos after Catherine reportedly confronted Camilla's daughter, triggering wild rumours of humiliation, intense power struggles, and a massive breach of palace protocol. What started as an elegant gala for diplomats and high society quickly turned into a hotbed of wild rumours, with conflicting stories raising serious questions about what actually went down behind closed palace doors. Was this a necessary step to protect the monarchy's precious reputation, or was it clear proof of a bitter feud within the royal family that nobody saw coming? So what is your take on this? Did Catherine make the right call, or did she totally overstep her royal authority? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and hit subscribe for more drama. Whispers echoed under Windsor's chandeliers. The evening was meant to showcase exactly what the royal family wanted the world to see: elegant stability and pure royal tradition. Inside Windsor Castle, diplomats, wealthy aristocrats, and VIP guests gathered for a banquet carefully designed to project global unity and strength. Every detail seemed perfectly arranged, from the gleaming tables to the polite, hushed conversations flowing through the grand hall. Yet beneath that shiny, polished surface, something was already starting to shift, and several guests seemed to sense the tension long before anyone openly admitted a problem was brewing. Among those drawing heavy attention that evening was Laura Lopes, the daughter of Camilla. Her rare appearance sparked instant curiosity because she almost never took centre stage at major palace events. At first, though, nothing seemed off. She seemed totally relaxed, chatting with guests, sharing smiles and blending naturally into the lively crowd. To onlookers, the grand evening seemed destined to go off without a hitch. But as the party continued worried, whispers reportedly began to spread nearby. The shift wasn't dramatic at first. Instead, it showed up in quiet, uneasy observations and nervous, hesitant glances between guests. According to insider accounts, several guests noticed Laura getting increasingly animated as the night progressed. Conversations that seemed perfectly normal at first allegedly started drawing attention for all the wrong reasons. Guests who had been totally relaxed moments earlier reportedly grew far more cautious, keeping a close eye on her, without wanting to trigger an embarrassing scene. In a room filled with powerful figures, even the slightest departure from proper royal etiquette quickly became impossible to ignore. As more elite guests caught wind of the situation, the mood inside the grand hall shifted dramatically. Scattered quiet observations slowly built into tense, whispered rumours. Distinguished diplomats and wealthy guests were reportedly exchanging nervous looks that screamed growing discomfort, though absolutely nobody wanted to call it out openly. Still, the heavy, awkward atmosphere reportedly became impossible to ignore with every single passing minute. The clash between the regal historic setting and the awkward tensions spreading through the room made everything feel way more intense. Rumours claimed that loud comments from Laura were starting to draw heavy, unwanted attention from nearby guests. Other sources hinted that her behaviour was quickly becoming impossible to overlook in such a strict, highly formal environment. Since most details stemmed from palace whispers and unnamed sources, massive questions remained about what actually happened and how bad it really was. That very mystery only added fuel to the fire. Royal loyalists could argue that this whole scene was wildly blown out of proportion by gossip, while critics pointed to the panic in the room as clear proof of a major breakdown. Yet, whatever the absolute truth, one detail remained completely consistent across all stories. At this late stage of the evening, focus had completely shifted away from formal diplomacy, proud tradition, or rigid royal ceremony. Instead, hushed whispers were rapidly centering on Laura and the awkward tensions surrounding her presence. What was meant to be a strictly controlled event was quickly spiralling into something else entirely. And as the dramatic rumours continued to echo through Windsor Castle, the stage was being set for a massive scandal that would soon overshadow any single guest. uneasy, worried glances continued to circle around Camilla's daughter. But how on earth did a night of celebration collapse into sheer panic? Who spotted the trouble first, and why was Catherine suddenly drawn straight into the centre of this tension? Let's find out, the quiet before her dramatic intervention. By the time real worry began spreading through Windsor Castle, the vibe inside the Grand Hall had shifted in a way nobody could ignore. What started as an elegant gala was now drawing attention for an entirely different, shocking reason. Conversations kept flowing, champagne glasses stayed raised, and guests desperately tried to maintain perfect appearances. Yet an awkward, unmistakable tension settled over the entire room. More eyes drifted toward Laura Lopes, and with every passing minute, the urgent feeling that someone had to step in reportedly grew much stronger. Across the hall, Catherine was carrying out the very role she is so famous for during major royal events. She greeted guests, exchanged friendly words, and easily maintained the calm, composed presence expected of a senior royal. On the outside, absolutely nothing about her behaviour seemed off. Yet, insider reports claim she had already picked up on the massive discomfort building around Laura Lopes. While other guests looked completely lost on what to do, Catherine reportedly realised that this mess was fast becoming much bigger than just one loud guest. To several onlookers, the drama was already threatening the carefully managed image of the entire royal event. That distinction mattered immensely. Private embarrassment is one thing, but a public scene before elite diplomats, nobles, and world representatives is a different story entirely. The royal family had spent decades fiercely protecting their public reputation, and major galas like this were designed to show off strict discipline and unwavering tradition. Reports suggest that Catherine instantly saw the risk of letting this awkward situation continue unchecked. If the tension leaked out, this grand evening would be remembered for cheap tabloid controversy rather than dignified diplomacy. Witnesses later described a massive shift when Catherine reportedly made her move to intervene. There was no dramatic announcement or public scene. Instead, she calmly glided through the room with an effortless confidence that instantly drew every eye. Nearby guests allegedly sensed a massive moment was unfolding before a single word was spoken. The change was subtle but unmistakable. Onlookers who had been quietly watching now focused on just one question: what would happen next? As Catherine walked up to Laura, the air in the room grew thick with tension. Anyone nearby knew this was far from a friendly chat. Eyewitnesses said Catherine kept her composure completely under wraps, showing zero emotion. That icy control made the whole confrontation feel even more historic. Instead of causing a massive scene, she looked bent on shutting one down. Insiders whisper that Catherine quietly but firmly laid down the law, telling everyone this drama had to end right now. Nobody knows exactly what she whispered, but the harsh message was definitely received loud and clear. Word is the call was made to kick out the troublemaker before the entire royal party spiraled into total chaos. Some saw it as strong leadership, others as a shocking power play, but either way, things would never be the same. This was no longer just about one rowdy guest. It turned into a massive scandal about power duty and who has the guts to step up when the royal crown is on the line. Beneath Catherine's calm exterior, a major shift was happening. Was this simple damage control or a calculated power move playing out behind closed doors? Who actually holds the real power here? And why did every single witness go dead silent as she walked past Stick Around? Because this moment changed the monarchy forever. The tension inside Windsor Castle reportedly hit an absolute boiling point the second Catherine's quiet confrontation yielded very obvious results. Before that, the bad vibes were mostly quiet whispers, anxious looks, and a growing sense of dread among the guests. But according to reports from the party, things escalated to a whole new level when Laura Lopes was reportedly kicked out of the banquet. What went down next became the absolute talk of the town, not just because a guest walked out, but because of what her sudden exit truly meant for the royal family. Insiders say they escorted her out of the room quietly. There was no screaming, no wild scene of chaos, and absolutely no public fight playing out in front of the crowd. Actually, people are absolutely obsessed because of how incredibly calm and managed the whole removal looked. But even without a major public scene, witnesses say the shockwave through the room was instant. Chatter died down and smiles instantly vanished. An awkward, heavy silence fell over major parts of the room as everyone struggled to figure out what had just happened. For the people there, this was no longer about Laura's bad behaviour. The gossip had shifted to something much, much bigger. All eyes were suddenly on Catherine, not because she made a loud scene, but because she stepped up and took charge while everyone else just stood around hesitating. In a world of strict rules, royal hierarchy and fake smiles, even a quiet move like this carries massive, world-changing weight. That shockwave swept through the grand hall almost as fast as the juicy whispers that came right before it. Right at the centre of all the rumours was one big question: who really has the power? Some experts think this proves Catherine is growing way more confident and influential in the palace, but others are sceptical, saying there are still far too many holes in the story to make any final guesses. Since most of this drama comes from anonymous leaks and royal gossip, we cannot know everything. Still, one major detail is hard to deny. To those watching, Catherine did not look like a passive royal just reacting to drama. She looked like the one calling the shots. Meanwhile, everyone slowly turned their eyes to King Charles. Sources at the dinner say he was watching the whole messy situation unfold very closely. The guests were desperately scanning his face for any hint of how he felt, knowing his reaction would dictate how the entire palace would talk about this scandal. Every single look, move, and quick exchange felt loaded with deeper meaning. In tense moments like this, perception becomes just as powerful as absolute reality, especially inside a royal family, where symbolism is often more important than actual facts. As the party rolled on, the weight of the incident grew far beyond just one awkward moment. What began as worry over one rowdy guest had ballooned into a massive debate about royal leadership, real duty, and protecting the crown's reputation at all costs. Whether you think Catherine did the right thing or totally overstepped depends on your view. But by the end of the night, one thing was absolutely clear. The drama was no longer just about Laura. It had turned into a massive, quiet battle for influence inside the royal family, and the fallout from this power struggle was just getting started. Right then, the entire banquet hall fell dead silent as wild rumours spread about the order that was allegedly given. But was this really Catherine's call, or something far more calculated? And why did Charles just watch without stepping in? And what exactly does this shocking moment set in motion keep watching as personal loyalty clashes with royal duty? The immediate drama around Laura Lopes might have eased once she was kicked out, but the actual scandal was only starting to explode. As people started whispering again inside Windsor, eyes slowly turned from the actual drama to a much trickier question. How is Queen Camilla going to react? For most onlookers, this dinner was no longer just about some awkward scene at a royal party. It was morphing into a messy story about family ties and the brutal struggle between personal feelings and royal duty. While different versions of the story are currently flying around, one crucial detail keeps coming up. Laura was not just some random invitee. She is Camilla's own daughter, and that fact alone changed the entire game for everyone involved. Any move made against her would naturally trigger deep family drama, especially for royals constantly living under a giant microscope. As news of the dramatic confrontations spread like wildfire, everyone in the ballroom was wondering what Camilla was actually thinking as her daughter was quietly sent away. Guests at the banquet debated the shocking move from every angle, with some arguing that tossing Laura out was the only way to save the royal event's dignity. Others wondered if the palace totally overreacted, but since most of this is just based on insider leaks and wild gossip, we might never know. No one could agree on what actually went down that night. That mystery only poured more fuel on the gossip fire. Behind palace gates, unsolved mysteries always grab more attention than cold, hard facts, and this mess was certainly no different. To those watching closely, the drama exposed a massive rift that goes way deeper than just one bad night. On one hand, you have the heavy burdens of royal duty, where keeping up appearances and strict palace rules always come first. But on the other side, you have the raw instincts of a protective mother whose daughter suddenly found herself at the centre of a humiliating scene. Whether Camilla secretly thought this dramatic move was totally justified or way over the top is still a mystery, but anyone looking closely could see a real, raw, human struggle hiding right beneath those flashy palace headlines. The arguments grew even more intense as people started asking who was actually in charge. If people were getting uncomfortable as the state banquet went on, who was supposed to step in first? Was it a job for the official palace security and staff? Should Camilla have stepped in herself, or did Catherine do the right thing by taking charge to save the family reputation from a public disaster? Every answer points to a different story, and each version says something very different about who holds the real power in the royal family. As the gossip spread, the story of this disastrous banquet became incredibly messy. What started as a simple rumour about one guest quickly snowballed into a massive, full-blown scandal. This story was no longer a simple case of right versus wrong. Instead, it became a clash of broken loyalties, heavy duties, and impossible expectations, with every single witness telling a completely different version of what happened. As this chapter of the scandal wrapped up, one glaring truth was impossible to ignore. People were no longer just judging what went down inside that grand, crowded banquet room. Instead, it was sparking much bigger questions about messy family drama, royal power struggles, and the brutal sacrifices demanded by public duty. And as those doubts kept building, the heavy emotional and political fallout from that single evening seemed a very long way from being resolved. Camilla's sudden reaction sent massive shockwaves straight through the palace walls. But how far will this drama reach, and who is ultimately to blame for the chaos behind closed doors? Did keeping the peace cross the line into total interference, and will the monarchy recover from this silent crack spreading beneath the surface, stay glued because everyone was watching the king? As fierce arguments echoed through the halls of Windsor Castle, everyone's focus slowly shifted to the one man whose reaction mattered more than anyone else's. The whispers were no longer just about Laura Lopes' Princess Catherine, or even the dramatic intervention that had supposedly taken place. Instead, high-profile guests, diplomats, and royal insiders turned their eyes directly to King Charles. Whenever a crisis hits the crown, everyone looks to the reigning sovereign for clues on how to react. According to whispers coming out of the banquet this time was no different. Word of Laura being escorted out had already completely ruined the mood of the entire night. What started as a small complaint about a guest's behaviour became a massive debate over power and royal judgment. But even with all the wild theories spreading, the palace refused to release an official statement explaining what actually took place. That total lack of clarity made Charles's role incredibly critical. Whether he chose to speak out or stay quiet, insiders knew his reaction would show how the family was handling the controversy behind closed doors. Sources at the event claimed Charles knew exactly how high the stakes were in that moment. The grand dinner was supposed to show off royal unity, diplomatic power, and stability. Instead, it became completely derailed by awkward questions that threatened to ruin the entire point of the prestigious gathering. For a king whose entire job relies on keeping the public's trust in the crown, a mess like this can cause damage that lasts for years. Every look, nod, and gesture is picked apart for secret meanings. As the night went on, royal commentators and palace staff were already over-analysing every single action Charles took. Some people assumed the king would automatically back any decision that protected the crown's precious reputation, but others pointed out that delicate family ties were on the line here. With absolutely no word on his true feelings, wild rumours and competing stories quickly filled the silence. Without any real facts, speculation started running wild. Even high-ranking diplomats and dinner guests were whispering their own theories to each other. Some praised Catherine's quick move as a sign of strong leadership during a crisis, but others wondered if she should have just left the matter alone. But no matter which side people took, almost everyone agreed on one crucial detail. How King Charles reacted was going to change everything. The king found himself trapped in a drama that was no longer just about one person's bad behaviour. It was turning into a massive test of who actually calls the shots in the family. Soon the gossip spread far beyond the banquet hall, with everyone asking who truly had his backing. If Catherine made the call, did she know for sure that the king would support her? And if Charles went along with it, what did that say about who holds the real power? There were absolutely no answers, but the mystery only made royal fans and commentators even more obsessed with the unfolding drama. What made this whole situation so critical was the realization that this was not just some minor passing scandal. Some experts believed we were seeing a massive shift in how the royal household runs its affairs. Of course, skeptics warned that people were just blowing rumours way out of proportion. Even so, the massive focus on Charles proved how quickly the story had changed. This state dinner was no longer just about some drama involving Laura Lopes. It had turned into a full-scale battle over who will lead and control the future balance of influence inside the monarchy. While Charles carefully figures out his next move, palace insiders are already whispering about a massive silent power shift taking place behind closed doors. But who is actually pulling the strings here? Why are powerful diplomats suddenly changing their loyalties, and could this single moment change the royal family forever? The drama quickly escaped the castle gates, because what happened deep inside Windsor Castle certainly did not stay inside Windsor Castle. By the time the grand banquet finally wrapped up, that rumoured incident with Laura Lopes was already taking on a life of its own. What began as quiet whispers between guests quickly blew up, turning into the main gossip across elite, royal and aristocratic circles, though the exact details stayed foggy. With conflicting stories flying around and zero official statements to clear the air, the wild speculation grew, only making the public even more obsessed with the drama. In the world of royal drama, unanswered questions always travel much faster than cold, hard facts, leaving people to piece together the chaotic evening using their own wild theories. Several reports focused heavily on Laura's supposed behaviour and the massive tension it allegedly brought to the entire evening. Others focused almost entirely on Catherine's quick reaction, seeing her stepping in as the single most critical moment of the entire night. Since almost everything leaked through palace whispers, insider chatter and second-hand rumours, totally different versions of the exact same drama started spreading fast. Every single version spun different details, pushing onlookers towards some wildly different conclusions. As these conflicting stories clashed, people started taking sides. Some royal commentators felt bad for Camilla, pointing out that any mother would struggle if her own daughter became the centre of a major scandal during such a massive palace event. Seen from that angle, the drama was about far more than just strict protocol or public relations. It boiled down to family ties, deep personal loyalty, and the sheer stress of being put under a microscope right in front of important guests. Meanwhile, other royal watchers were looking at this whole situation through a completely different lens. They pointed to how Catherine allegedly kept her cool all night, arguing that she stepped in simply to save the dignity of a major state event. For these onlookers, the real issue was not family ties, but duty and responsibility. They felt that letting drama or disruption drag on in a room packed with foreign diplomats and senior officials would have triggered much bigger problems for the firm. Consequently, Catherine's actions were praised by many as solid proof of her ability to lead calmly under intense pressure. The deeper this heated debate goes, the further it drifts from what actually went down during the dinner. Conversations started shifting to what this moment revealed about the future of the British monarchy itself, raising big questions about power, real authority, and the roles key senior royals will play in the coming years. Even without solid facts, people wondered how messy moments like this might shape how the public views palace leadership during a major transitional phase for the royal family. Yet not everyone bought these sweeping conclusions. Skeptics pointed out that people were reading too much into a story based mostly on gossip and hearsay warning against using one messy dinner as proof of major changes within the monarchy. Their skepticism highlighted one very obvious truth. Most of the obsession over this incident was about what people thought it symbolized rather than anything that could actually be proven. Still, no matter which side you believe, one glaring fact was impossible to ignore. That banquet was no longer just some fancy royal dinner party at Windsor Castle. It had transformed into a massive debate over loyalty, personal judgment, and modern leadership. As those tense conversations kept spreading past the palace walls, the royal drama seemed to be entering a much more serious phase than ever. With rumours flying past Windsor, the palace was suddenly trapped between some very different truths. But who is actually controlling this narrative, and why are loyalties suddenly shifting behind closed palace doors? Could this quiet, behind-the-scenes power struggle reshape the entire future of the British monarchy in the days ahead? Keep watching for a quick glimpse of tomorrow's crown. With the controversy spilling far outside the walls of Windsor Castle, the focus of the story took another dramatic turn. What started as gossip about Laura Lopes and a rumoured intervention at a royal dinner was fast becoming a much bigger issue. More and more royal experts were completely ignoring the actual details of the incident itself. Instead, all eyes were shifting toward Catherine, looking closely at what her rumoured actions revealed about her growing power in the royal family. Fair or not, that single evening was turning into a major milestone for anyone following palace drama, though the shift actually happened very slowly. Right after it happened, almost all the talk centred on that dramatic removal and the massive questions it raised. But as the weeks went on, royal watchers and media commentators began analysing the drama through a whole new lens. Instead of just asking what went down, they started debating what this meant for the future of palace leadership. This dramatic controversy turned into a real-world case study on how senior royals react when sudden messy challenges pop up right in front of the global media. A lot of this attention focused directly on Catherine's composure, and across all those conflicting reports, one theme kept coming up. Her fans argued that she stayed incredibly cool during an extremely awkward situation, stepping in to make sure the prestigious event was not completely ruined. Whether those theories were actually true is still open to debate, but they definitely fueled the belief that Catherine is becoming much more comfortable handling the heavy duties of her future crown. Even so, a lot of skepticism remained. Her critics quickly pointed out that the entire narrative from that night was built on wild speculation and palace gossip rather than any verified facts. They insisted that royal watchers were simply reading far too much into one isolated evening. Seen this way, turning one dramatic dinner party into proof of major long-term change means jumping to conclusions that the facts just do not support. Even with that pushback, the massive debate showed how much this scandal had grown. As the chatter heated up, questions about power influence and real royal authority became impossible to ignore. The rumoured showdown was no longer being seen as a simple way to handle an awkward, tense moment. To many, it looked like a major shift in how the palace views Catherine. Her actions, whether you loved them or hated them, threw her straight into the centre of a national conversation about leadership, judgment, and duty. In many ways, the sheer symbolism of that night had become far more important than the actual incident itself. That powerful symbolism also fueled wider debates about the future of the monarchy. The royal family was already going through a massive transition, so any moments pointing to new leadership naturally grabbed the public eye. Consequently, that tense state banquet became deeply tied to much bigger questions about how the palace might evolve in the coming years. And while one single night cannot dictate the future of the crown, royal observers increasingly treated this scandal as a clear sign of changing dynamics within the palace. By this point, the drama had spread far beyond the initial shocking rumours involving Laura Lopes. That dinner party was no longer remembered just for what allegedly happened that night. Instead, it had turned into a massive debate about public perception, royal authority, and the future of the crown itself. As those intense conversations went on, many felt the biggest question was no longer what actually happened at Windsor Castle, but what the immediate reaction to it revealed about the monarchy itself. So what are your thoughts? Was Princess Catherine right to step in at Windsor, or did she completely cross the line in a shocking royal move? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more juicy royal stories like this.